Misa smells the honeyed, earthy scent of warm, sweet potato pie, and her heart plummets. She knows what that scent means. She leaps from her bed and is shocked by the chill she feels on her legs. She wears a nightdress instead of the shirt and leggings she normally wears to bed. Her bare feet thud too loudly on the floorboards as she speeds across the room to her brother's bed. She knows what she will find. Emptiness, absence, fate. She vaults through the window, and as her feet touch the mossy ground, she is fully clothed. Her boots, leggings, skirts, vest, and sword weigh her down with familiarity and reliability. She runs into the forest, her footfalls still thudding and clunking strangely against the moist earthen path. She hears too many footsteps. In a flash, she is almost there. In the closing distance, she sees the gnarled hut, pies cooling on the windowsill, door ajar, and revealing a swirling black form inside. And right in front of that whirling, vacuous mass, her brother, his mouth set in a grim line as if firmly accepting the destiny in which she has entangled him. His eyes watch her without emotion as she shouts his name and dashes past the crumbling gate. As her arms reach out to him, the blue-gray eyes snap open above him. The huge, wiry gray hands appear at either side of the doorway. One offers itself to him patiently. The other places an enormous pie, big enough for him to fit in, at the doorstep. Misa calls his name again. She tries to run faster, but she does not get any closer. The thudding continues. He puts one finger in front of his lips and shakes his head. He lays his other hand, small and soft, atop the offered gray talon. Above his head, a cracked grin of jagged teeth opens. Below the piercing eyes, it fills the entryway. The door begins to close. "Enjoy the sweet potato pie," he says, and the mouth laughs, opening wider and wider until it engulfs the form of Misa's brother. And the door slams shut. Misa finally reaches it and throws her whole body against it. She demands her brother back. She shouts and curses as a cacophony of other voices drowns hers out. She slams her fist against the door, the loud, muddled thudding now coming from every direction around her. She feels the rage take hold of her, and Misa awoke to shouts and thudding footsteps echoing from the deck above her. She sat up quickly and reached for her scabbard. A grimace twisted her face briefly, the only betrayal of her pain from the battering her body took the evening before. They had survived, barely, and had defeated the entity called Auntie Dredgemuk. After cursing her sister for dragging her into this situation, she had summoned an underwater earthquake that buried her lair, and almost buried them. The last tendrils of her dream faded as she belted on her sword, pulled on her coat, and sprang out the door. Shouts met her as she sprinted up the stairs. Breaching the hatch to the main deck, she realized the sun was much lower in the sky than she had anticipated. She must have slept most of the morning as her body tried to recuperate. Suddenly, something slammed into her, shoving her toward the center of the deck. Swirling around a little slower and stiffer than usual, she drew her sword and faced the broad and freshly lacerated back of Huragor. She remembered how that billowy creature had enveloped him and how its teeth rended and ripped at him. He turned to face her, and she saw that he held an enormous fish with a saw-like appendage at its head. It flapped and gasped in his grip, and he stilled it with 2 well-placed punches. "It almost hit you," he explained, dropping the creature onto the boards. "What is happening?" he asked. Misa caught sight of another creature, a large octopus, flying over the railing at him from behind. She stepped forward and lunged, piercing the creature through in midair. Blue blood oozed from the wound as the curling tentacles slackened. "I don't know," she responded. The crew ran about in an unfocused flurry, clubbing and hacking at various sea creatures that seemed to be raining upward from the waters below. Scales shimmered in a kaleidoscope of color as assorted fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and a few unknown species flapped, skittered, jetted, and crawled across the deckboards that had become slippery with brine, blood, and other fluids. Clumps of vegetation also flew over the railing, their shiny leaves and protuberances slapping and popping as they crashed onto the deck. The crew had become wary of surprises, but was now elated by the bounty that littered most of the foredeck. There had been few fresh fish found over the past few weeks, as the ship sat dead in the water. It was as if the creatures had been hiding. Every few days a net would come up, sliced. When an animal was caught, it rotted as soon as it died. But this morning, a faint current returned, and now this. Misa noticed Wertnob and Tranquilla at the forecastle, with bows drawn and arrows nocked, but no tension on their bowlines. Whatever was going on, they had determined it was not a threat for now. They both peered into the waters beside the ship and scanned the horizon. They held their weapons a bit more loosely than normal, and she wondered if they were in any shape to thwart an attack, if this had been one. She heard a loud cracking and crunching behind her, and turned to see Drugared slurping the meat out of a crab claw as the remainder of the maimed animal writhed in her other hand. She smiled and offered the thrashing creature up to Misa. "Can't get any fresher," she said, her face and vest moist with seawater and bits of juicy flesh. "You should let Femi cook that." Drew shrugged and swallowed. "I've got a really healthy constitution. Femi can cook the next one. Where is he, anyway?" It seemed the entire crew scuttered about in glee and excitement. Even the reserved captain smiled down from the aft deck as the quartermaster directed the gathering of the feast. Misa realized that she had accounted for all of her companions, except for Femi. He had fought desperately last night, taking unnecessary risks and lingering too long to search the quaking hovel, nearly being crushed by the underwater cliff as it cleaved and tumbled. When they made it back to the ship, he had heaved himself over the railing, rested for a few seconds, and dragged himself to his quarters without a word. Something had happened during the time he was alone with Auntie Dredgemuk. Hopefully, he would tell them soon. The denizens of the sea are grateful. She had not noticed him approach from behind, and Femi's voice startled her. Another clue that she was not at her best. Yade saw merfolk coming, and said they were dancing and singing after a fashion. Femi's companion popped a tentacle out from under Femi's shirt. Under the circumstances, hiding was the most prudent action for an octopus. We rid them of an entity that destroyed families, cultures, and the very region she inhabited. We are very noble, are we not? Selfless, steadfast, righteous, alone. What happened, Femi? She offered me freedom from this nightmare. She offered me my wife, and I betrayed my love for you, for all of you. He looked past Misa to the crew, who brought baskets, pails, nets, hammocks, anything that could hold the offered foods. One young wiry hand ran right up to them with a slick, shimmering fish long as his arm held out in front of him. "Mr. Femi, there are jugs of strange ale, jars of flavored salts, and wonderfully smelly sauces. Where do you want it all?" "Gersain will take care of it," Femi responded absently. The youth ran off to deliver the fish to the apprentice cook, but then paused briefly and turned back, his face alight with revelation. "It will be the best barbecue ever!" Femi did not respond and just waved him on. "Which one is Gersain?" asked Misa. "We picked up so many hands at the last dock, I wouldn't know him if he walked by right now." Femi looked directly into Misa's eyes and stared at her as if searching her face for his next words. "I believe she would have fulfilled her promise." His voice began to crack with frustration and anger. "For 2 years, we have plotted, searched, followed threads, and gathered a clan of misfits as tortured and helpless as we are, while my wife is trapped, suffering, and alone." Misa reached out a hand toward him, but he pulled away, just out of her reach. "If I had the chance again..." A gray tentacle slipped up from his collar and stroked his cheek, dabbing at the tears that began to fall onto his face. Femi turned away and headed down below. Misa felt a pang in her chest, as if she had just lost someone important to the darkness again. She wiped a fresh tear from her own face. "He will come around," said Hurigor. "We are close. Evil is desperate." "Yes," said Misa, taking in the joyous scene of the crew dancing, laughing, and shouting in unrestrained glee. "But desperation makes animals more vicious." He hears the cow mooing. It sounds scared or hurt. Is there a wolf near? He rolls out of bed and pads on his small bare feet to the window. It is dark outside, but he can see there are no animals in the pen, not even that sheep that his sister hugs and pets and hand feeds fruit as if it was family, while she taunts him about getting fat whenever he eats anything. He looks over toward his sister's bed, knowing what he will find. Emptiness, absence, betrayal. He is a bit taller and older as he steps outside the door onto the cold earth. Shoes appear on his feet, and leggings and a jerkin press onto his skin. He looks back to the house, but it is gone. He looks down and sees a path of lots of bones, of lots of different animals, like the flower petals he threw at a wedding long ago, leading to the woods. Tanti has come to visit. He walks forward, following the path to the woods, and that poor cow. He is hungry. He is as hungry as that day when the growling of his stomach woke him from a nap in the barn. As hungry as that day he heard a whispering singing in his head and followed the wisp to the open door of Tanti's hut. As he enters the woods, the brambles move out of his way. They tug at his skin and clothing welcomingly as they open into a grassy field with huge, funny rocks that look like steps and columns. But he does not smell grass and earth and flowers. He smells roasting meat that makes his empty stomach twist in excitement. He sees movement on the other side of the rocks, so he goes in that direction. The mooing is loud now and constant. He has never heard cows call out without stopping for at least a few seconds. He wonders what is wrong with it. At the other side of the rocks is a familiar sight. Tanti is standing over her kitchen table, It looks strange standing in a clearing, but he learned that Tanti can do amazing things. With her bare hands, she tears the bones from a creature, a large roasted piglet, about his own size. That is strange. The piglets Tanti cooks are usually smaller and more tender. As he listens to the cracking and ripping of bone and meat, the old fear of ending up on her table stabs at him, and he pushes it down. He is a good helper. He sees the strange stones really are steps and columns covered in grass and plants. It must be an old building. Tanti likes to find old places that people thought were important a long time ago. Behind Tanti is a metal statue of a bull. It is very pretty, although it is old and covered in soot. There is a fire lit underneath it, so he understands where the soot comes from. He also realizes that that is where the mooing is coming from. Auntie Gigi steps from behind it, carrying a basket of vegetables and herbs in one hand and a heavy towel in the other. He always liked her hair, which grew white as snow from her head but turned green at the ends. She looks up and waves the towel at him in greeting. Then she wraps the towel around a handle at the side of the bowl and opens a hidden door. The mooing turns into screaming. Hands and knees push out of the belly of the statue as Auntie Gigi tosses peas, carrots, potatoes, parsnips, bulbs of garlic, branches of herbs, and small bags of spices past the body parts that try to press past her. She giggles as she tosses ingredients in while smacking and poking at the waving limbs. There is no way past her. "Come closer, child." Tanti's voice startles him. She does not look up from her work. He walks right up to the table, his stomach grinding with hunger. "I have terrible news. Your poor Auntie Dredgemuck was murdered in her own house last night." He feels dizzy. Not Auntie D. He spent most of his time with her, listening to her stories, hunting huge and powerful creatures, and searching shipwrecks for treasure and magical items. She seemed to like having company and did not send him on missions like Tanti did. He would never say so out loud, but Auntie D was his favorite of the three sisters. He feels tears form in the corners of his eyes, and as they fall, Tanti appears in front of him with a small vial to collect them. She is never wasteful. After she takes a few tears, she slaps him so hard across his cheek that he is thrown several feet away from her. "She was a fool and a traitor. If I see you shed one more tear for her, I will take your eyes and wear them as earrings." He nods, and that is the end of that. He hears a clang as Auntie Gigi shuts the door on the metal bowl. Then the mooing starts again. She chuckles as she notices a severed finger on the ground, picks it up, and pops it into her mouth. She chews and sucks on it as she approaches him and Tanti. "But you are hungry," says Tanti gently. A sharp crack sounds as she crushes the roasted skull. Slowly, she picks out the eyes and offers them to him. He barely tastes them as he gobbles them up thankfully. He only ate what she cooked when he was starving, but it always tasted wonderful. Tanti watches him quietly as he finishes the snack before continuing. My sister betrayed me, just as yours betrayed you. She reaches out a bony hand and places it on his head. My sister has paid the price. It is time for yours to pay as well. Auntie Gigi pulls the clean finger bone out of her mouth. Sister B, she says. He's too young, too weak, Auntie Gigi protests, but falls silent when Tanty's back stiffens. Sister D's murderers are with you now, on that ship, she continues. She looks deeply into his eyes. Your sister is one of them. At first, he does not understand. He does not cry. He does not scream. He does not respond. Then his body explodes as the terror, confusion, betrayal, abandonment, and fury that he has felt for years rushes into him at once. He does not feel the gashes that break open at his shoulders and back as the wings and tail that Tanty gave him for work and protection burst out from his body. His eyeballs are black as the ocean depths that he explored with Auntie D. His fingers have stretched into long claws like Tanty's. He pants raggedly like a wounded animal taking its last breaths. As the mooing quiets and finally stops, he gathers his focus just enough to ask, Which is she?